would you even do a cricket sound anyways?
Chirp.
Because people can do it.
Chirp, chirp, chirp,
No,
chirp.
that's Huck Turgo.
I don't know. I don't know. Alright.
Silence!
Courage and honor.
As I go to do the intro, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you everybody for joining in. We're going to be talking today about ROBOUTE GUILLIMAN and his era in the Horus Heresy, led by Corbin, who is our resident Papa Smurf love boy.
That's me.
And Blue Boy Lover.
Yes, and are we teaching James about ROBOUTE GUILLIMAN?
Little
And
G.
Maybe, yeah, Robbie G. Also known as the Avenging Son, or I'm sure Blake has a list of names here.
I actually do, thank you very much. So I'm going to save my two favorite for the last. So we've got Rodent Guillotine, Rabbi Goldman, Papa Smurf, Big Daddy G, Robu, and then we got Roboute Guilliman, which is his name in Ukrainian, and then Roboute Guilliman, which is the same thing but spelled differently, is his name in Russian. Robot Gorilla Man, Big Blue, Robbed Blind Silly Man,
That's a good one.
Rowboat Gilly Suit, Rowboat Girly Man, Raw Butt Girly Man, and then Robber Gillette Man, Red Bull Gasoline, and Rawboat Gentleman. What's the other one? Rosemary Gilly Family Man,
Rose.
Roblox Gigabyte, Shawshank Letterman, Robust Girly Man, and then we got my two favorites, the Blueser, and a poor man's Cato Sicarius.
You guys can't see it, but my eyes rolled so damn hard.
Love
The
it.
poor man's Cato Sicarius.
I know, that's the one that hurts the most.
Oh,
You
that's
don't know this,
triggering.
James. Cato Sicarius is a sort of a meme in the Warhammer community as being like overpowered OG, and he's like, we're obviously going to get into him with the Ultramarines episode.
No, he'll get his own episode. But his whole meme is, I, Cato Sicarius.
Yeah, from
because his books were written like early 2000s, late 90s, I think, and they were basically like, he was the hero. He was like the
And then-
protagonist, and he did nothing wrong, and he won every battle kind of
He
thing.
was
and
Titus.
then,
He
he
was Titus, if
Before-
Titus was like...
no, he was Master Chief, probably. But
he
that's
was
how to put it.
Master Chief.
But the-
like,
but,
yeah,
like,
never lost a battle.
But then the text-to-speech series really memed him up, and it's like, I, Cato Sicarius, am
Yeah.
the best of the world.
Yeah. I, Cato Sicarius, am better than everybody because I, Cato Sicarius, am the ultimate Ultramarine.
Oh my god.
Ultra douchebag.
Is he
Yeah.
dead?
No, he's still alive, but he
Oh,
got humbled
God.
really good.
Is he still alive in 40k?
Yeah, he's still. Yeah, he was the leader of Titus's company at one point, and then now I think he's either back with Guilliman or he's might be leading second company.
He might be. We'll save that for his own episode.
Titus is in second company, so he might be leading third or fourth. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. Alright.
Put it down in the comments.
Yeah,
Put in the comments.
We're wrong
on that
all the
as,
time.
On that as well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the love that you've been showing us, guys. Our subscriber count has basically doubled. Keep
Last time we
liking.
got together, we were like on the way to 100. Now we're on the way to 400.
400.
Yeah, on the way to 4. So yeah, thank you for that. Please like and subscribe. Please share it around, even if you don't like it. Appreciate you being here and still clicking on. But yeah, thank you very much. Keep up the algorithm gods. Yeah.
I'm glad you guys enjoy our nonsense as we filter through this wonderful world that we all love.
Wonderful world.
Wonderful world.
This isn't Sound of Music, mate.
I mean,
The
we're going to
hills
be
are
talking
alive.
about Robo Guilliman and
Yeah, the hills are alive. Just not
With bloodshed.
they're not your friends.
and bullets.
all right. So
Alright,
kicking
Guilliman.
it off.
Oh, I'd
We-
like to point out as well. This is the first Primarch we've done.
This is our first Primarch,
is the first Primarch
and
episode.
it makes sense that it would be Roboute Guilliman. But we will only be
Wait,
covering
no, didn't we
Roboute
do an Abbey? Oh no,
Abaddon's not a
Primarch.
Don't do that.
in before the comments. Yeah.
Wait, no, Magnus didn't do anything.
We
wrong.
did a little bit on Horus during this heresy,
Yeah, true.
but
I didn't give him a dedicated episode.
No, but yeah. And it makes sense that we would do Roboute Guilliman first because he is the best of them all.
the lamest.
Yeah, as if, mate.
So
This is the
as-
first time I'm going to be giving you shit.
Yeah, I know, right? So we all know Big E used and borrowed power from the Warp Gods to create his sons. They all got scattered because Big E can't keep a promise. And Robute...
He's a shit dad.
Yeah, he is.
No, he's not a shit dad. That's just a very
No, he
reductionist.
is.
That's a very reductionist way of looking at it. But yeah, sure.
He's barely a father. He looks at them as
He never
more as
wanted to be.
tools. Yeah. He is Zeus. He is a shit dad and not a very good god. Alright, so
wanted to be.
Robute landed on a planet called Macragge in the Ultima sector.
Macragge, nuts.
It's
It's not fun when someone does it to you, does it?
no. Macragge is an awesome name. It's like a Scottish name. It's a good one. It's a good strong name for a
Macragge.
planet. Yeah, he landed on Macragge, and it is the capital of the Ultramar stellar system. The primary form of government on Macragge is was a pair of officials called consuls. And during the Dark Age of technology, just as a bit of background for Macragge, its industries and some short-range warp-capable craft survived losing contact with the other colonies. During the Dark Age of technology, they even kept making spacecraft, allowing them contact and trade with the neighboring planets in the Ultima sector. And when Guilliman landed on Macragge, he was found by a group of noblemen who were out hunting. They then took him to one of the consuls called Conor, who adopted him and named him Robute.
If you haven't figured out already, consoles, very Roman, very Greeks, kind of inspired. Planet.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask what is it?
Imagine space Rome.
Yeah, but they're like one of the most technologically advanced lost human colonies.
One would argue they're actually better than the other Imperium, like the rest of the Imperium, like in terms of like population happiness and that kind of thing.
Not at this stage. Early
stage,
on,
right.
they weren't. There was very much like a huge disparity between like the wealth
Yeah.
and the classes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, so when you say because I was thinking like console being like he took him to like some like research facility or something.
No,
like that,
no, it's
but
like two kings that basically rule the planet, and they're called consuls.
In ancient Rome, there was a consul that would like manage most of society, and then there's a proconsul that would lead the Senate.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
similar sort of vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conor, the consul who adopted Robute, also had a seneschal called Tarasha Utun, who was like Robute's adopted mother.
Seneschal's like a right-hand man.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
Yeah, like an advisor. Yeah. And by 10, Robute had mastered every subject the wisest men on Macragge could teach him. Like, well outdoing everything. He physically outgrew all other, like, men, because he's Primarch, so he's, like, bigger, stronger, taller, smarter than everybody else on
Primarchs
the
were
planet.
like full-grown by the time they were 3 years old.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that. So is it only Primarchs that are like that? Or is like... Because, like, if he was found as a kid and then taken to, like, you know, to be with, like, other, you know, training and all that sort of thing, would he have then gone with other kids and been like, okay, well, now I'm a full-grown adult at 3 where
That
there's...
has happened
Yeah.
with other Primarchs where they were adopted. And it's in this one as well, where they were adopted. They were assumed that this baby was going to grow up to like a normal human size.
Normal baby,
But
yeah.
but then the problem is that now, for some reason, this thing's taller than me.
At, like, 2 years old
Yeah,
or
so they
whatever,
were just
like...
so they kind of realized, yeah, you're not really human, but
Well,
like you
the
are.
reason that, like, because the nobles found him in his capsule, and he was basically glowing with aura. And so they were like,
would've-
this is amazing, take him to the king. And the king's like, this is going to be my son.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they knew, but there would have been other Primarchs that would have gone, like, been found, like, just randomly by, like, a family, and then all of a sudden...
Some have.
Or like
Absolutely.
Kurz dug his way out of the crust and ate rats and murderers to survive and
Not
was never
all
adopted
Primarchs
by
had
everyone.
the exact same experience. A lot of
Oh, yeah,
Primarchs,
yeah, no.
some were enslaved, some were put into good families, some were taken by royalty, some were like...
Because I'm
Yeah.
guessing that the humans are normal, like the, you know, the Astra Militarum or whatever,
Yeah.
like, they just grow normally, like...
Yes.
A 15-year-old is
Yeah.
a 15-year-old,
Yeah, yeah.
not
Yeah.
like a...
For all part,
50-year-old
humanity,
man.
for the most part, is pretty average across the stars.
Except
but
for
this
the
is also the
Primarchs.
point where all of humanity is kind of like segregated and cut off from each other. So the Ultramar system doesn't know anything about the Imperium.
Oh.
So
Yes,
this
because
is-
they've been cut off
yeah.
for several hundred years through the dark age of technology.
Yeah. So this is when they're all separated. And
So
then
they didn't know that, like, they wouldn't have known, like,
They
oh,
didn't
this
know
is
who
one
this
of
is.
the Emperor's
No,
Primarchs.
they don't know who the
they wouldn't know
Emperor
any-
is.
They wouldn't know who the Emperor is. They don't know why this kid's come out of the sky. They don't know shit.
They would have just been like, oh, this kid's, like, a
Yeah.
angel or something,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
Because
okay.
the Emperor didn't even really rise up through the unification until after the Dark Age of technology anyway.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
So,
none of these
yeah.
people know about the
And
Emperor. or anything.
Yeah.
he created these Primarchs so that he could unite the galaxy on a Great Crusade. But then they got scattered, so then he went on the Great Crusade to go find the Suns and also unite the galaxy at the same
And that's
time.
what that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you know. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was adopted by Conor and a nobleman.
Yes. And although he mastered every subject, his greatest talent was being a military leader, which led him to taking an expeditionary force to a place called Illyrium, which is like the mountains outside of on a rural part of Macragge, whose inhabitants had terrorized the civilized regions. He sorted out the mess there in the mountains and returned to the capital to find the city in chaos, as the other consul, Galen, had started a coup.
So he came back to a civil war.
Because his dad, or adopted father, Conor, had been... all of his legislation and his governing was, for the common people. He was redistribute the wealth, the farmers can't eat to survive, we need them to produce the food that the
So
rest
that
of
we
us
can-
eat.
yeah.
So, get rid of slaves, blah, 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 blah.
Sort of like socialist.
Make sure we root
like-
out. Make sure we root out. Well, also make sure we root out corruption. Make sure that these services are in place. That kind of thing. Like he was trying to be the people's.
He
leader.
was Abraham Lincoln. And then Galen has gathered up all of the wealthy nobles that own all, they're the 1%.
Because
and they're we are going to storm the console building.
because the nobleman was suffering from these reforms that he was trying to do for the people.
because they're
Not
losing their.
suffering.
well,
No,
they would say suffering. It's probably the
Yeah,
right way.
yeah.
to say
Yeah,
it.
they're like,
losing
oh
their
no,
wealth."
he's taking our slaves.
Yeah.
We have to pay people to make our food for us.
What do you mean I have to pay proper taxes?
Yeah, what? What do you mean that we
Yeah.
can't enslave our population? But yes, so they didn't want to give up their slaves or immense wealth, and they besieged the consul house. Robute ended the siege, probably violently, I'm not too sure about the details on that, but found his adopted father close to death, surrounded by his loyal bodyguards. Conor, his adopted father, had been assassinated, and with his dying breath, told Guilliman who was responsible.
Old ghillie suit
Yep.
went on a rampage.
He was off sorting out issues in the mountains, came back, father was dying. It's a little bit of foreshadowing.
This is where the ROBOUTE GUILLIMAN turns into rodent guillotine.
Yes, because he literally took Galen, the rodent, and guillotined him. Robute crushed the rebellion and was given the title of sole consul of Macragge, elected by the people. And Galen and his co-conspirators were executed, and their lands and wealth were redistributed to the masses.
It's one way to do it.
Sickle and hammer.
The thing is, as well, is that you also got to put yourself into the place of the humans that are living on this planet. This guy who is literally the size of a house, comes across, and he's super intelligent, and he's also a brilliant military strategist. And then on top of that,
He's compassionate.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
seems to care for the populace and makes common sense rules. Why would you not vote for him?
He was
Yeah.
the adopted son of the favorite consul of
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So after this, Robute turned Macragge into a meritocracy, and Macragge prospered like it never had before. Because his logic and planning and just tactical mind just made everything flow really well.
It's easy when you're the king of Excel.
And he put people into positions of power not based off their family lines, but based off what they were actually contributing.
Attributes and yeah.
Meritocracy is the best way to do it because, if you can do the job the best, you get the job.
Yeah,
yeah.
which is what it should be. And this brings us to Big E visiting a nearby planet called Espandor. And he heard about the son of Consul Conor, and he was like, sounds like one of my sons. But because of warp storms, it took him a while to reach Macragge, and by the time he did, Robute had been ruling for 5 years and had completely turned Macragge around. He found it self-sufficient, prosperous, and with a well-equipped military.
So he came across, and I'd like to point out, Guilliman is one of the few sons that the Emperor came across where they created a spacefaring civilization.
Well, they were already spacefaring
maintained
even.
is probably the best way of saying it, yeah.
And so they were already trading with other planets nearby, which is why they call it the Macragge, the Ultramar system. He comes and he's like,
Yeah,
you know what, Guilliman, you've done really well. I'm really impressed. There's nothing to change here. well done. And
Yeah.
so he allowed which then became the Ultramarines, to relocate their homeworld to Macragge.
So okay, so when a Primarch gets found or whatever, who's like naming? Okay, you're now the Ultramarine. Like you were my Ultra.
Traditionally, it's already named. Like
Named.
the planets are already named. They can. I don't really know of any
Oh
that
no,
change
he's
afterwards.
talking about the legions. The Primarch decides and often renames their legion.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like they, the Raven Guard or.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
for
they wouldn't have gone like, oh, this is the Raven Guard, planet or whatever. Like,
For example, the best way to talk about it, because you know how the Emperor had his Space Marine legions on Terra before he found his sons, because he had all their gene stuff left over. He then created their Space Marine legions, and then he went out to go find his sons, and then when he found them, he gifted them their respective legions. But those legions also had different names before. Most of them had different names before they met their Primarch.
Yeah, so the Ultramarines were the Warborn.
oh,
They were known as the Warborn, which we will get into in the Ultramarines episode.
Yeah.
But then Guilliman was like, we're relocating here. This is called the Ultramar system. These are
They're
going
gonna
to be the Ultramarines.
yeah.
And for example, Mortarion had the Dusk Raiders, but then he
Yes.
changed them to the Death Guard when he found them, when
Yes.
they were gifted to him.
Okay, that's what I was trying to work out. Like who.
Most of them didn't change their names, but they also changed to suit their Primarch and their culture when they found. So
Yeah. So that's how they started off as on their the beginnings of the Ultramarines, and then which leads us into the Great Crusade. And with the exception of the Lunar Wolves, the Ultramarines conquered more worlds than any of the other legions, and left them arguably in a better place than any of the other legions after they were conquered.
So the Lunar Wolves, if you remember, are Horus's boys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
aside from them, they did better.
Yes. They set up self-sufficient defense systems on any world they conquered. They also set them up with industry to prosper and trade routes with other conquered planets. Whereas other legions would be like, cool, we're going to leave like a leader here and a military presence, and the world needs to fend for itself.
Yeah.
Give us our tithe.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
For example, Rogel Dawn of the Imperial Fist, he would take over a planet and then he would just move on, and he would say, leave the governing to Guilliman, because that's not what I'm good at. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm here for. But that's what Guilliman's strength is.
Guilliman's
Yeah.
strength was like he sounds like he was very like
Methodical, practical.
strategic
Yeah,
and
pragmatic and
I was
logical.
about to say pragmatic. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, with all of this, Macragge was turned into an efficient military base, providing the Ultramarines with plenty of recruits. This, combined with the minimal casualties, thanks to Guilliman's tactical skill, made the Ultramarines the largest Space Marine Legion.
Yeah.
and this is all before the 1,000. You gotta have a
This is way before that.
Yeah, this is before the Horus
Before
Heresy.
the Horus Heresy.
Yeah, so the Great Crusade is like them conquering all the worlds for
Conquering, yeah.
humanity.
This is
yeah.
when the Imperium were at the height of their power. They were this close to taking over the whole galaxy.
Yeah. And then we get to the Horus Heresy, which we've already covered, but I'll go through Guilliman's role in it just kind of quickly. After Estevan, the unaware Ultramarines were attacked by the Wordbearers on Calth, which will also get its own episode and a book club episode probably, because it's a great book, and Blake and I have already read it.
Yeah.
Um,
To point out the reason why that's important is because the Wordbearers hated the Ultramarines for a slight that the Ultramarines were involved in against their legion. So, and on top of that, the Wordbearers were the second largest behind the Ultramarines in terms of numbers.
yeah. Okay.
This attack left the Ultramarines hurt, but they fought back the Wordbearers and the World Eaters out of the Ultramar system, because while the Wordbearers were attacking Calth, the World Eaters were like attacking some of the other 500 worlds in the Ultramar system. So they're just like fighting back two different legions at the same time.
We're not allowed to mention World Eaters in this podcast, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
just
World
annoy
Eaters and Angron make a little appearance here. So
Yeah, but we have to annoy a certain fan.
Oh no, no, we're not allowed to do that.
he's gonna like this next bit.
Yeah.
So, Sanguinius at this point had been sent off by Horus to like fight a war and was trying to make his way back, but warp storms are going everywhere. So he told his librarians to find next closest safe spot to come out of the warp, which they assumed would be Terra, but it was actually the Macragge system.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they pop up and they're like, an Ultramar, and Guilliman's like, sup Sanguinius, I'm gonna go kill Lorgar. And Sanguinius is like, thumbs up. Go for it. Guilliman chased Lorgar to a world called Nuceria and proceeded to body him.
Do you know?
Beat the shit out of Lorgar.
You know Nuceria?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Until
worldly as
Angron turned up. Angron came charging in and interrupted the fight, and Guilliman didn't get to kill Lorgar because Angron was like big mad, and Guilliman was already a little bit exhausted from beating the absolute shit out of Lorgar.
Yeah.
And also, Angron is like fury incarnate, and so
And also, it's worth pointing out as well that like all the Primarchs can pretty much body anything because they're just that strong and powerful. But when it comes to combat with each other, some are just simply better at fighting. I would say Guilliman's a decent fighter, but he's not an Angron or a Lionel Johnson.
well, he took on Angron and Lorgar
No,
at
that's
the
what I mean.
same time, which is a bit of a feat.
It's a feat. No, don't get me
Because
wrong.
Angron
He's
is
a decent fighter.
vicious fighter.
But I would say he's a decent fighter, but that's not his biggest strength. It's probably the best way of saying it.
Yeah. So he had to retreat before he got to kill Lorgar. And then he returned to the Ultramar, like the part of the Ultramar system, where, like around Macragge, and he was fearing that the Imperium was lost. They couldn't contact, like, the solar system
the
or
warp
anything.
storms had fucked everything up. They couldn't contact anybody. The Ultramar system was cut off from everything else. And then they were also hearing astropathic messages saying that, you know, the Emperor's dead, Dawn's dead, everybody's dead.
Lorgar
Imperium's
was
fallen.
saying that he
They're
was
all
already
dead, Dave.
dead and
Yeah.
stuff, and like all of these legions have turned against it, and so Guilliman's like, we've already lost the Imperium.
Yeah.
So he and Sanguinius created Imperium Secundus, which will also get its own episode because so much happens around it. It's very interesting, and Night Lords make a quick little appearance. It's really cool.
Essentially, what happens is that Guilliman creates like a secondary Imperium just in case the first one did actually fall.
Oh, okay.
And then places himself as the governor, Sanguinius as the new emperor, and then the Lionel Johnson as the protector.
Well, actually, yeah, I mean, we'll get into the episode, but Guilliman was like, I don't want to be the new emperor. Sanguinius was like, I don't want to be the new emperor. Guilliman tried to make Lion the new emperor, and Lion was like, no. Eventually, Sanguinius said, okay, fine, I'll put my hand up and do it. And, yeah, but we'll get into that in its own episode,
yeah.
because a lot happens. It's really cool. But basically, they activated the Pharos machine, which is an old Necron tech, which basically blocks like warp storms and stuff and creates like its own little small astronomicon.
yeah.
You were able to get messages through, and they used the Pharos machine to contact with the other 500 worlds.
Yeah.
And then they tried testing the limits to see if they could talk to Dawn on Terra, and they were able to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that's a different book as well. But it,
Yeah. That's its own system thing too.
but because of the Pharos machine, many loyalists came to Ultramar, or like gathered around Ultramar, and joined Guilliman and Sanguinius, including Lionel Johnson.
Yeah.
So Guilliman, Sanguinius, and the Lion all decided to try and breach the Ruin Storm to reach Terra and aid the Emperor. During the trip through the storm, the Ultramarines were delayed by traitor forces. Robute survived like the third assassination attempt, and like on the trip to like Terra, this is just like a whole bunch. So much went down. A lot happened on the trip, but arriving at a blockade, Guilliman and the Lion decided to distract and divide so that Sanguinius could get through, because Sanguinius had seen the future of like, I can make a difference and save the Emperor, and he's like, I'm the golden boy! And also he had the smallest fleet, so he was the easiest one to like slip through.
Get
Yeah.
through, yep.
Yeah. And then after the Ruin Storm died down, Guilliman made his way through several worlds on the way to Terra that were all garrisoned by Iron Warriors, just like murdering like big cannons and stuff that they'd set up on worlds to take out like fleets that try to fly past.
Jesus. And
Because
that,
what he was also trying to do is he was trying to pave the way for Lionel Johnson, Lehman Russ, and Corvus Corax to try and get to Terra to stop
Terra.
the invasion.
Yeah.
yeah.
But also, they had the biggest Space Marine force.
Yeah.
They knew they could make a difference if they could make it to Terra.
Yeah.
The Traitor forces knew that if the Ultramarines turned up,
They would be
they
in
would make a
trouble.
big difference. That's
Yeah.
why the Alpha Legion sent 3 assassins to try and kill Robute on the way there. The Iron Warriors were set up in defense to try and slow them down. The Wordbearers and the World Eaters had tried to kill them on Calth. Like, if they were really trying to stop the Ultramarines, because they were like,
they're
3 times the
I would-
size of other legions
They
and
were the
stuff.
biggest threat.
threat.
Yeah. And also the tactical mind of Guilliman means
Yeah.
that, like, the traders were in for a bad time if Guilliman got there on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Ultramarines were too late to face Horus, as we found out. After this, Guilliman then becomes the Lord Commander of the Imperium. And he created the Codex Astartes, which we will talk about in the Ultramarines episode. A few other because this is now the second time that Guilliman was out doing his thing and too late to come back to save his dad. He's now like racked with guilt and trying to make
I
up
didn't
for
make that
things.
connection. Yeah, this is the second time. Yeah.
He's like because of his duty that he's been doing, he's never makes it back in time. He feels like he's failed the Emperor because he could have saved the Emperor if he was there. And so he takes that personally. And he's like, starts beginning the Great Scouring. And he's like, we're gonna...
The Great Scouring is when the Loyalists fight back and then chase down all the heretics and push them back into the
wow.
Eye of
Yeah.
Terror. Yeah.
So a few things happened. Guilliman faced off with Alfarius on Escrador, which is the homeworld of the Alpha Legion, and killed him.
Shit, it is too. Yeah.
Yeah, and killed Alfarius.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Oh,
I don't
this
believe
is-
that either. I don't believe he
Nah,
killed
it's because
Alfarius.
Alpha Legion is so
Like they
full
did
of-
kill Alfarius, but they're all Alfarius.
Yeah, but like, I think Guilliman would know,
Yeah.
because even though there's like not a size disparity between him, like Alfarius, and the sons of Alfarius. Guilliman would know from fighting him that this is like not just a space marine that he's fighting
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
in a one-on-one. That's why I think it actually was Alfarius.
There's
And
a-
then like others have been like, I'm now Alfarius because,
To point out as well, I think the Primarchs can sort of tell the difference between them because there's a point in the Praetorian of Dawn book where it takes place a little bit before, during the Great Crusade, where Dawn goes into a chamber to try and talk to Alfarius, and there's Alfarius on the throne, and he's just like, "Are you going to keep up these games or not?" And then Alfarius comes from behind him, and then he's just like, "You're not Alfarius either." And then another one comes from the corner,
Yeah.
and then he's just like, "You're sitting on the throne. I know it's you."
Yeah.
Like he knew who he was.
yeah.
Get me to Alfarius.
Yeah. So this leads us up to Guilliman facing off with the Emperor's children. And Demon Primarch Fulgrim is holding a poison knife that he got a lucky shot in on Guilliman as Guilliman beat the crap out of him.
And then cut his throat.
Oh, okay, I thought you were meaning like let's pause it.
No.
Yeah. And so then Guilliman fucked him up, but he got stabbed with the poison knife. So,
So we're
I would say Fulgrim is a good swordsman, so it wouldn't be not that surprising.
and this is Demon Primarch
and
Fulgrim.
Demon Primarch is on top of that.
this is when he's
Snake.
so this is after.
So
he's
this is
become
after the Horus
demonized.
Heresy. Great Scouring is when the Loyalists are chasing after the heretics.
After
Yeah,
the
So
yeah,
and
okay.
then the Emperor's children are facing off with the Ultramarines and Guilliman, and then that's when he gets the lucky cut in.
God.
Yeah, he gets a lucky cut in on Guilliman
I was just
while
gonna say, where
Guilliman
do you get
kills
like
him.
what is like poison to a Primarch? Like what would be
Warp magic.
But
Yeah.
I suppose if it's already past like all the
Yeah.
Horus Heresy, they've all started to become demonized.
Well,
like, they would
also,
have-
Fulgrim has the god-killing blade, the anatheme that almost killed Horus. It was
Yeah.
the sword developed by a greater demon of Nurgle to kill Primarchs.
You remember when Horus was stabbed with that blade, and then he went through that vision quest, and then he saw that the Emperor was quote unquote lying to him.
Yeah.
And then he was
Horus
also
gave
being-
that sword to Fulgrim.
Yeah, he gave that sword to Fulgrim as like a, you can trust me. I need you.
Yeah.
But mind you, I'm saying this conversation to every single one of my brothers, so you're not actually that special.
No, and also Horus knew that it was the demon at that point and not
Yeah.
actually Fulgrim. But that'll be in Fulgrim's episode.
He knew of the demon influence, but the demon hadn't taken over by that
he
point.
hadn't become a demon yet. He was
Well,
influenced
The
by
demon
it.
was still in the sword.
Not after after he beheads Ferris Manus is when the...
This is before that. He gives the anatheme to Fulgrim before the massacre.
Oh, he does too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, when Horus explains to him everything, he's like, "No, you're lying to me," and then gives him the blade.
Yeah. So
Fulgrim book's a good book. Good read it.
Guilliman is now super poisoned and nobody can heal him. So he gets put in a stasis field and frozen in time for 10,000 years. And that's where we end our Guilliman episode in 30k. I just think, like, the reason that I really like Guilliman is that he's, like, logical, he's kind. Like, yeah, the Ultramarines get too much representation, but that's not really their fault. Despite their over-representation, I think Guilliman is a really interesting character. He gets even more interesting in 40k, which we'll cover in a different episode. But he had a great upbringing. He has, like, passion for the common people. He is, like, an intellectual that also is a great military leader. He established, like, worlds that actually thrived because he wanted to create a place where humanity can live instead of just, like, conquering for the, like, a warmongering kind of thing. Like,
He tried modeling the example.
yeah, he was a better ruler than Biggie ever was.
He does
I'd
sound like the perfect, like, goody good, like...
I was gonna say you give Sanguinius shit for being good golden boy, but I would say Guilliman's the more like goody good two shoes boy.
But see, Guilliman has, like, this guilt and regret in that he's never in the right place at the right time to save the people he cares about. He only just manages to stop the lion from exterminating a world where his adopted mother's on, because lion's a bit like, let's blow up the
Because the
whole world.
lion was trying to chase Conrad Kurz on a planet, and then he's just like, let's nuke the planet.
Yeah.
But no. And Guilliman's like, no, my mother's on there. And then Lionel Johnson's like,
I'm gonna push it anyway, and Guilliman's like, I will cut your head off, lion.
it's like Dr. Robotnik with the red button, like,
Yeah. But all of this, like, guilt and feeling like he didn't do enough is what led him to go above and beyond and to be that example.
Yeah.
And why he's called, like, a goody two shoes and the golden boy is because everything is by the book, done the right way, for the right reasons, for the greater good, is because he feels like he's failed in the past, and he needs to be that example, and he needs to be at that point.
Yeah.
Which is what I really like about him. He's got more depth to his character than a lot of people give him credit for.
totally, like, that's same with every single character in Warhammer, I would say, is that every character has more depth than what the community gives them credit for. I think I would like Ultramarines a lot more if they weren't so oversaturated in the promotional art. Like,
But that's not their fault.
I know that's not their fault. But I'm just saying I would like them more if they weren't so oversaturated, because I'm just sick of looking at blue. Like, I was so sick of us doing the Space Marine 2 campaign, I'm sick of looking at blue.
Yeah.
And, like, that's not even their fault. It's just
No.
it's just the
But there had to be a poster boy.
there had to be a poster boy.
I was going to say
totally get
there
that.
has to be, because for Games Workshop, they have to have, like, the ultra good for people that want to, like,
Ultra
before
good.
they
Saw you did there.
well before you get into, like, the storyline and everything like that. Like, if you're just wanting to play the game, like, on the tabletop, and you want a good, like, so somebody comes in to the shop, like a mum coming in and says, I want to get my kid into this, like, who's the good guys? You would sell them the Ultramarines.
Totally good, guys. Haha.
And then if you had, like, an edgelord going into the shop and we're like, who are the most edgiest people? Then you would give them, like,
Raven Guard.
or the Black Legion
Drukhari.
or something, like the Chaos Space Marines.
We never give them Drukhari because we hate the Knife Eaters.
Yeah. But, like, that's what, like, it's so that they can sell, like, the product. So you have to have the really good,
No, yeah, and I
which
totally,
is the
I
Blue
totally get
Boys.
that. And we
You
would
have
be
the
having
really
the same.
bad, which is the Black Legion or Chaos Space Marine or
We would be having the
Orcs.
exact same conversation if it was Imperial Fists, and people would be like, "I'm sick of looking at yellow," but that's an alternate universe.
Yeah.
So, totally get it. I do genuinely love their aesthetic, like the Greek and Roman backgrounds.
What do you actually think of Roboute, though?
Memes and jokes pissing you off aside, genuinely good character, good Primarch.
Yeah.
But, like, it's like how I said with the tier list episode, is that the good base plate, like a good barometer of, like, being the mid of, like, where to go, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that's where I see him. I see him as more like the default of what a Primarch should be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like
he is the
like
default.
the ideal
Yeah.
Primarch.
Yeah.
Because they have to be good at everything. Like, you know, because they're like that Swiss Army knife, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They have to be good at everything because, you know, to make up for that kind of thing. But because they're good at everything, they don't excel at anything, if you know what I mean. Like, they're not good at defense like Imperial Fist. They're not good when it comes to stealth like Raven Guard. But they're still good at it all.
They're assault.
That's why I see them as the default.
They're assault. Like they're not
Yeah.
like excelling in like one certain field. They're just like good baseline for
Yeah.
everything.
Good all-rounders is the right way of saying it.
the place that they excel in is like governing and setting up worlds.
Yeah, but that's lore
Which is
based.
not-
But that's
yeah.
like when you look into the lore. Like if you're
Yeah.
looking at it from like a tabletop point of view, like someone just getting into the Warhammer world and stuff before they've looked into everything.
It's good because they
like,
can be
they're
good at
the-
everything.
They're the that's why GW sell them is because they're the most basic, and they're also, I feel like, easy to paint. Like the same with orcs. I mean, they've done the same thing with Tyranids as well. Like if they're wanting someone to get into Warhammer, they're like the Ultramarines or the Blue. They seem to be like the one to get you in. Like that's why
Yeah.
every like the magazines that they do, they're like
The big cardboard cutouts, the big
everything
unboxed
is
everything,
the
yeah.
Blue Boys. Like, and that's why like a lot of people, I guess, are upset with even like the Space Marine game is because like they're only like focused on the Blue Boys, but it's really perfect because people that haven't ever heard about Warhammer or whatever,
They have that
see a
image of the
Space
blue. They have
Marine,
that image of the blue Space Marine in their head.
and
I
that's
must
that's
say
it.
though, if you're just getting into Warhammer for the 10th edition, Space Marines are bottom mid because they've been nerfed so fucking
They have
hard.
been, yeah.
They're like, it's unfair that like what is in the lore doesn't match the tabletop at the moment.
A
for
2,000
Space
point army
Marines.
should just be 2 squads of Marines, like based on how powerful they actually are in the lore.
Yeah, but like you look at like guardsmen can shoot with more accuracy than a Space Marine on tabletop at the moment.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but based off like tactics and like, you know, all of that, because benefit of cover, you minimum hit like roll is a 3, so you can't hit on ones like a Space Marine should be able to with like, you know, if they have heavy and like their faction like
Hopefully with
thing.
with this new narrative play thing they're coming out with, should be fun.
Yeah, the Space Marines have just been nerfed too hard, and according to the lore, they should be better than like the average humans. But
You would think
they're
that
not.
because they've been like ultra trained, like to be like they're not just like.
And they should be
Hey,
tougher
can you
than
hold
they
a
are.
gun? Like,
Yeah.
can you go? Like, can you be fodder? Can you
yeah.
just run out and shoot? And if you hit something, great. If you don't,
I remember a mate of mine saying that Space Marines should play how Custodies are, like just because of how broken they are,
Yeah.
or they can be. But taking away from Ultramarines and Space Marines, going back to Guilliman, I like Guilliman because of his pragmatic mind, and just like, you know, that's just, I can't really find anything I don't like about him, if you know what I mean, like, or
Yeah.
anything I hate about him, because like neutral, and it's probably the best way of saying
he's
it.
white bread.
But yeah, he's the unseasoned chicken.
Yeah.
but like, and that's not a bad thing as well. But it's also like,
You
because
called
of
him
that-
unseasoned chicken, and I'm just like so upset.
sorry, salted chicken. Let's go with that then. But like, the problem with that is that there's nowhere to go beyond that, if you know what I mean. In terms of like, it's where we were saying before, the Legion might be crap, but the characters in the Primarch are awesome, for example. Or it
Yeah.
might be the opposite way around. I don't like the Ultramarines in terms of as an army, but I love their characters.
Yeah, I mean, they've got great characters. They've had a
Yeah.
lot of stories written about them, but I do think that I disagree with him being salted chicken as well. I think he has flavor. I think Guilliman has
good flavor.
Yeah, I think he has a really interesting story. He has his own nuance, and they are looked at as like the template because they strive to be the ideal Space Marines.
If
and
we
follow
only
them.
had Ultramarines and Guilliman, and we didn't have the others, that'd be cool. But the problem is that because when it's in contrast to the others, like, you know, when you see like the aesthetics of the Raven Guard, the aesthetics of the Salamanders, for example, it does kind of like, it feels like they are shorted out a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, the aesthetic side, Ultramarines
Where they drop a bit.
yeah, until you get to like their Vitrix Guard or like the tesseracts and like.
But they have to be basic if someone's just getting into painting.
Yeah, they have
for
to have the
first
basic,
time.
yeah.
They have to be easy. Like
Yeah.
if you want to like be challenged, then you will go find other armies that are more challenging to paint.
Like a space wolf with a wolf coat on them, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, doing wolf here on the coat of a space marine is like, ugh.
Bringing it back to Guilliman, I'm curious, James, what your first impressions of Guilliman were, and has that changed sort of now?
I mean, I've always liked the mini, like, because I go off like the mini side because that's what I'm more.
You visually relate to. Yeah.
So I've always liked his mini. Like,
Oh, yeah, he's got a sick mini.
I know, I've got one.
the
I've
best.
I will
painted it.
never
like-
play Ultramarines, but I want a Guilliman mini to
He's
paint.
one of the better looking Primarchs. Like there are some Primarch minis that are pretty basic.
Yeah.
Like, but he's like, well, I mean, he is the poster child, so they kind of can't do a crap mini, and then have like him be like the person that everyone like they shove down your throat, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a better mini than Lion.
But what we...
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say
was just
he's-
about to say, Lion's better.
No.
My personal opinion. Because
Totally disagree.
I
No,
know
don't-
I know you would, but
I
I, like
have
Lion
the
more.
Lion, and I don't think that the Lion is better than.
Just on a mini side. Just
Mind
on
you,
the
this
mini
is the
side.
tier list argument all over again. I thought Dark Angels deserved to be
No,
higher
I
than
mean,
Ultramarines.
I'm not even bringing like the character into it. Just based on the mini, I disagree.
No,
Yeah,
I personally like the Lion, but that's my thing.
Yeah.
But I was curious about your first impressions.
But
of him.
I also like I like that with the mini, like especially, like he is sort of like the more advanced mini. Like you go from painting just Ultramarines, like just
Blue
like
and gold, blue and gold.
that's
yeah.
it, and then you go to him and he's still blue and gold, but he's like more intricate. Like that's where you get for the first time of like, oh, this is a little bit more hard than just whacking blue on everything. Now there's a little bit of like gold that you.
To be
gotta-
fair,
There's so much gold detailing.
Yeah,
to
there's,
be
like, more
fair, the
detail.
Ultramarines are that they're all blue.
Yeah, but that's what I
They're
mean.
blue
like,
and gold.
They're now like
They're only gold if that's what company you want to paint them as.
Well, the trim, gold trim is the standard.
Gold
And
trim
then
is
they-
first company.
What's that?
Gold trim is first company. Any other you can do whatever color you
No,
want.
it's talking about Guilliman.
It's
Oh, Guilliman, right?
but also it's all of them and like some of the others, and it's just the trim on the shoulder pauldron that changes. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's just that. But that's what I'm saying is that like you can try and mix and match if you want.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the gold trim is on the rest of it, on all of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's just the shoulder pauldron trim that changes with the company, as well as like.
Again, I would say that's up to you as well because I do the same thing with my Imperial Fist. I break it up.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
either way,
But as far as like the lore side of it, like it nothing really surprised me. Sounds like it's like the goody Superman of not plain. Like I have this argument with people because like comic nerd Superman can be very boring.
So
Like,
boring.
As much as I love Superman, but he's very boring because he's like just the most good.
because
He's
there's
too
no,
good
no,
at everything.
Yeah,
good-
he's
because
just
if,
like, but
because
he's
if he's
mid.
good at everything, there's no struggle, and if there's no struggle, then what's interesting to read?
Yeah,
Where I disagree with that, with the Superman thing, is that Guilliman fails. Guilliman doesn't always save the day.
Oh,
He-
no,
yeah, he's good at everything, but like he falls short all the time and gives himself a hard time about his shortfallings. And like their whole thing is like they'll take a situation where they failed and then think about like how they could do better next time to improve, like constantly trying to improve on it.
Yeah.
That's very much like his style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and
There's contrast between him and 40k and 30k.
Guilliman sounds like the Superman of, he's just the middle of everything. Like, he's not bad at anything. He's not, like, super excelling in anything. He's just, like...
There's nothing wrong with the default.
No, he's just default. He's the Superman
And I know
of-
that you probably don't agree with that, but that's just... I think that's also how the wider community sees them as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's also a helpful guide in terms of figuring out the other legions as well.
Yeah,
Because
I wish I could have brought you over to my side on the Ultramarines, but that's okay.
Hey, I
I,
have, like, shitloads of... Like, I have lots of Ultramarines because I bought lots of the starter kits and stuff like that.
But also, just wait until you hear about him in 40k.
Yeah,
because he
it
does
may-
some awesome stuff in 40k too.
It
No, I
may
agree.
be
and that'll be
different,
that'll be its own episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll cover the Ultramarines in the next episode. But I think that's about all we have for Guilliman now.
Until
Pretty
40k.
before, like, in the Heresy, that's pretty much all we got, really.
Yeah, like they did some cool things in the Great Crusade, the Battle
the problem
of
is that
Calth
you'll
will be
find
its
out
own.
as well with some of the Primarchs is that it's not really their upbringing that's the important part. It's what they do in the heresy part. That's
Heresy.
interesting.
Yeah.
And with Guilliman, it's more so how he rules in 40k.
Yeah.
Because he was the first Primarch back when there were no Primarchs around.
Yeah.
So what books would people get into if they're wanting to learn about Guilliman? Like, is there any books that you
His
need?
Primarch book, and then
Calth.
the Calth book, and then the Dark Imperium books.
The Dark Imperium books, if you want to learn about them in 40k, the Dark Imperium books are fantastic books. They're so good. It's a trilogy. It is Ultramarines versus Death Guard, and it is really, really interesting. But if you want to learn about them in the Horus Heresy, really, Calth.
Calth, No
Battle
No
for Calth.
Fear.
No No Fear is a good one.
And then, like, the problem with the Horus Heresy is it's a bit of an ensemble thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's in and out of some books. Pharaohs, he has a good point in there, but, like, you know, he's
But
only
his
in there for a couple
Primarch
of-
book sounds like the one to start. Like,
Yeah.
I would
start
assume
with
so. I
that.
haven't read it yet.
Yeah, no, I would actually suggest Calth above all others. The Battle for Calth, or the Devastation of Calth. No, Battle
No,
for
it's
Calth.
it's No No Fear.
No No Fear. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the Battle of Calth takes
Yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah. Which is just fantastic, and you actually get to see, like, a lot of Guilliman, but also you get to
Be introduced
really get a respect for the Ultramarines.
Yeah,
Like, you
you
get to
get
understand.
introduced to the Ultramarines and how they do things.
Yeah,
But
and they fight over against corrupted word bearers, which is always good.
And then the Dark Imperium books.
Yeah,
For 40k modern setting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's about all we have for 30k Roboute Guilliman. He is definitely one of my top 3 Primarchs.
He's your favourite loyalist, isn't he?
It's tough though because I also love Vulcan and the
Sally's.
Khan.
Yeah.
But yes,
I would put him somewhere in my middle, to be perfectly honest. But
Yeah.
that's
Primarch tier
also
list
not-
coming soon.
That's also not a bad thing as well.
No.
So yes, a Primarch tier list is coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Like and subscribe, and follow our channel for more
We haven't-
interesting.
Couldn't sound less enthused.
We have an Instagram and a TikTok.
Yeah, we've got Instagram, TikTok. Go check out our YouTube shorts as well if you're into that kind of thing. Also, as well, comment down below if you do like Guilliman or if Rodent Guillotine, whatever you want to call them.
Or if you have any comments about this episode.
You're really
Yeah.
loving the rodent guillotine.
Oh, I just
nickname.
find it beautiful.
All right. Thanks, guys. Final words. Courage and honor.
Poor man Cato Sicarius.
Where's the pigeons?
For the glory of chaos!